Hi, I'm Stephen Nance from DrillDown Solutions. In this podcast, we're going to talk about financial and tax planning and how to manage your numbers.
OrthoMarketing.com, 360-degree digital marketing solutions for your practice.
Well, hello, everybody in podcast land. This is Dean Steinman from Ortho Marketing, back with another podcast for you. So it is now early September 2021. Hope everybody had an awesome summer. And now it's back to the grind and get everything going. And now it's time to get out your pencils, ladies and gentlemen, and start getting ready for those spreadsheets. Because I have with me a very special guest. I have Steve Nance. Steve Nance is with DrillDown Solutions. DrillDown Solutions is a financial planning tax specialist dental CPA company based in Utah. They work with dental practices all over the country and help them with their financial goals, financial planning, and consulting. So, Stephen, how are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate that. So, so tell us, Steve, tell us a little bit about who you are and the company.
Yeah. So I'm Stephen Nance. We're in Provo, Utah. We're a dental CPA firm. We have dentists and non-dentist clients. We actually started in 2004 as just a general CPA firm, if you will.
Right.
And took on a lot of real estate clients and dental clients. One of the original founders has a brother that's an orthodontist, actually.
Okay.
And through him, we generate a lot of dental referrals. And then the founding partners created a spin-off company, Dental Intel, which has been a very successful dental software analytic company. And they spun off a few years ago. I've been with the firm since 2014, and a few years ago, we made the decision to keep our focus on dental. And
Smart.
we love working with dentists and have a lot to offer. And that's kind of what we do in a nutshell. We work proactively with our clients to help put them in the best financial position possible.
Great. It's real great to work in a niche. I joined the dental community about 15 years ago, being in the marketing business for about 10 years before that as well. And, I love working with dentists. They're a great bunch of people. They get it. And, I always say that I'm in the smile business. My job is to make them smile, and they're in the smile business to make people smile. And you always see somebody walking down the street, no matter where you are, and if they even know who they are, if they have a smile on their face, you feel good about them. You're kind of attracted to them just overall because somebody feels good about themselves. So so let's talk a little bit about how you make the dentists feel good and make them smile. So
Yeah.
how are you guys? What's the biggest issues that you're finding from that a dental practice has as far as taxes, financial
Yeah.
planning, finances across the board? What are would you say the three biggest issues that not a DSO, but a single practice, with 1, 2, 3, 4 locations faces?
Yeah, that's great. So the first issue that I see probably with new practice owners or those who are just getting out of dental school is there's often some sticker shock when they see how much taxes they might owe when we start projecting and planning. So the first issue is just a little bit of a reality that the taxes are real.
Sure.
The federal government charges up to 37% of income taxes. Plus, there's all kinds of other sneaky taxes that they put in there: payroll taxes and net investment income tax, alternative minimum tax, additional Medicare.
And who's this FICA guy?
Yeah, who's this FICA guy?
Right.
They get added on there, and then state taxes. So we need to kind of be real that taxes are real. That's the first thing. And two is either poor accounting or poor planning that we see that creates either surprises or things that are just not done right. And so we come in, we help plan and project for that. And then number three is just being aware of the opportunities that there are. As much as taxes are real and as inefficient as the tax code is, there is a lot of wiggle room for planning and reducing your taxes. And there's a lot of unknowns to people. Surprisingly, some people don't know sometimes about HSAs or certain retirement strategies. And
Right.
then there's the bigger ones like the conservation easement or the captive insurance or defined benefit plans, things like that, that we can provide a lot of insight on.
It's funny. I always say to people that hire the experts. There's a lot of DIY companies out there, do it yourself, and people can now, especially in the orthodontic world, they could Smile Direct Club and do braces on your own or whatever it is. But don't do it, guys. Hire an expert. As you went to school to be a dentist, and you are expert in what you do. I can't tell you how many times somebody says, "Hey, my cousin does marketing. I could do." No. You hire a company that knows what they're doing. Hire a financial expert that works in your industry and knows what they're doing there. And as Stephen just told you, there's quite a lot of pitfalls and things you need to realize that are changing constantly. Every time when I go to my accountant, he always gives me new ideas and things I have to be aware of. So, so what's the biggest challenge that you are facing there, and how do you overcome it?
Yeah, well, recently we've had to deal with all the COVID stuff,
Right.
which has hit us in all angles. First of all, a year ago, last March, a year and a half ago now, dental practices were shutting down,
Right.
and there was all this unknown. Everything was shutting down, and everything was unknown. And then the government stepped in and they provided a lot of support, a lot of programs, a lot of tax credits, and we had to transition our business from focusing. It was last March when we changed from what was normally our busy tax season to PPP season, and applying
Exactly.
for PPPs, and then extending our tax season through July, and then dealing with all kinds of clients or all kinds of questions that clients had about unemployment and PPP and the ERC, employee retention credit. So being able to adapt and has made the difference in dealing with those challenges that come up, and is really a life lesson for anybody of
Right.
being able to adapt to whatever changes. And the fact that we don't know exactly what's going to be around the corner, that whole COVID thing caught us all by surprise.
It sure did. And if you listen to any of my previous podcasts, the word adapt comes up a lot. As a money guy, I don't know if hopefully you read the book or saw the movie Moneyball. But
I've heard of it.
in my,
I have not read it or
one of the
seen it.
best books I've ever read, and one of in my eyes, probably one of the top 2 or 3 best movies ever out there. I'm just a sports guy, and I'm always a numbers guy. I knew the back of every baseball card growing up as a kid. And the great Billy Bean has this incredible line in the movie that I use almost daily: "Adapt or die." And that's in business. You have to adapt your business no matter what you're doing, to the trends, to the technologies, to the times. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind, plain and simple. So let's talk about that. So what type of technologies or platforms should a practice have in place to be able to keep up, to stay ahead of the curve, to be on the
Yeah,
curve? If you're surfing, you don't want to be in front of the wave because the wave's going to wipe you out. You don't want to be behind the wave because you missed it. So you want to be on that wave. So
yeah,
what's a couple of technologies, platforms that a practice should be, looking at implementing
yeah,
internally? I mean, from a QuickBooks stamp, I use QuickBooks for my
yeah.
billing and whatever it is. So you better not be doing your billing by hand, or spread,
Uh-huh.
or using a spreadsheet. So what's a couple of tips that you should they tell somebody that, as a young practice or even an old practice, that they're just pulling their hair out of their head? What's a couple of technologies that you think they should have in place?
Yeah, QuickBooks is a good one, and QuickBooks Online specifically.
Hmm.
Uh, you can have your numbers pulled from your bank account in real time, and your credit cards, everything just synced up in QuickBooks. And then so QuickBooks Online, and you can access it anywhere. And then another one I'd recommend is Dental Intel. I mentioned that earlier. I don't personally have they've kind of spun off. We don't have a personal financial interest or a thing to be gained from there, but it's a great analytical tool that plugs into your Dentrix or EagleSoft or Open Dental are the main platforms that it uses, and it puts it all into a dashboard. I mean, all that information is there in your patient management system already, but putting that into a daily dashboard, having your morning huddle focused right there, looking at all your metrics and your goals and where you need to be hitting each day can be extremely valuable. So those are a couple things, but along with that is you've got to have someone managing that. Specifically QuickBooks, you as a dentist, you don't want to be managing QuickBooks. You don't want to be your bookkeeper. You've got more valuable things to be doing. So having someone to do your reconciliations, it's not good enough to just let the system work for itself. You've got to be reconciled. You've got to have the financial reports done for you. But I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. Just to, and it's funny when you say online. I'm a Mac user, and I've been using QuickBooks since I first started. My company, 25 years ago, and they get you. So every time you automatically update your computer to a new operating system, a lot of times that your in-house software on the computer won't change with it, and all of a sudden, you spend $800,000 for the software, and then a year later, it's no good. They have to pony up again and pony up again. So I all in on online platforms there, and from a billing perspective there. As far as payroll, what do you suggest? Is a good option. Obviously, you could use an ADP or a local company, something along that lines. There, what percentage of practices use payroll type companies, or do they still do it themselves?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the exact statistics on percentages, but the first thing I would say is you need to hire a payroll company to manage it for you. There's too many traps to fall into with payroll. If you're trying to do it yourself, now QuickBooks Online has a platform. You can do it yourself, and we have some clients that do that. And if you're up on it, it works. But our payroll partner is Magellan. Magellan Human Capital is the name of it. They do a great job, but there's other ones. Gusto, Paychex can do a great job, but having that off your plate and onto a payroll company, I think will serve most people well and free up your time and energy and risk.
Smart. Yeah, exactly. So a couple more questions, Steve, for you. What's one myth that you want to debunk about a financial planner, tax specialist, CPA that's out there? That's just kind of, another one of those, people have had bad experience with marketing companies before. And, I hate being pigeonholed in that because, we like to, do a really good job for our clients. So what's one big myth out there that you want to say, that's really not even close to the truth?
Yeah, well, one is that I can think of is there's everyone wants to save on taxes, especially when the government's wanting to take 37%. But in general, to make all your decisions based off of taxes is usually an error.
What do you mean? Why don't you explain that?
Yeah, well, I've had clients that we come up to the end of the year and we're doing planning, and of course we try to do planning throughout the year, but sometimes we get to that point and the client just wants to go out and buy a new vehicle, a bunch of equipment that they might not necessarily need, and they might be able to zero out their taxes, and they can finance it at all, and it is true, whether you finance it or pay in cash, you get to take the depreciation write-offs either way. So you can zero out your taxes, but then you've got debt payments to make that in most cases are going to be higher than the taxes that you're saving. So you're saving 37%, but and then state you might be saving 45%. Then there's the other 55% that's coming out of your pocket. Now, I would say if you need the equipment or you need a new vehicle, get it and get it by the end of the year. So you can get the tax savings, but don't do it just for the tax savings.
Got it. Yeah, let's talk about that. So, just kind of tangent here, because there are a lot, especially in the orthodontic world. There's a lot of big software programs or print or 3D printing, and people, or scanners that, not cheap. So a lot of them you have to, lease out or pay over time. Are you a believer that if you got the money, just buy it, or do you believe in leasing it or
Yeah.
paying it out? What would you recommend if somebody needs to spend $50,000 on a printer tomorrow or a scanner tomorrow? What would you suggest they do as far as
Yeah.
covering it?
Yeah. And I don't know that the answer is a general across the board answer. I
Okay.
think it's a case by case. If you've got plenty of money, I prefer not to have the debt hanging over me. But
Okay.
if you need that money for other things that are going to help your business, marketing or whatever that is, and you can spread those payments out to help you use that leverage to help you be more profitable, by all means. But it really just depends on what your goals are, where you're at financially, and what you want to do.
Okay. Good. So, got two more questions for you here, Steve. Um, what's on the horizon for
Yeah.
you guys in the next 12 to 18 months? What are you going to do differently or focus on?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. One that we're kind of wrapping up, but a lot of dental practice owners are still dealing with is the employee retention tax credit.
Okay.
Um, Now that's a payroll tax credit that was part of came about through the CARES Act, but it's been modified somewhat.
Right.
So it's a payroll tax credit for 2020. It works a little bit differently than it does for 2021. And by the way, if you qualified for this credit, but you've filed your payroll taxes and you didn't claim the credit, you can still go back and amend prior years to claim the credit.
Okay.
Prior quarters. So the credit is for 50% of your wages up to $10,000 of wages. So $5,000 per credit per employee per quarter for 2020. That's the way it was for 2020.
Right.
Now, the credit can't be claimed for the same wages that you use to get PPP forgiveness,
Okay.
but it is a refundable credit. So even if you don't pay as much in payroll taxes, you still get money back from the government. So it's really a partial subsidy for your payroll. For 2020, you qualify if your business was shut down either fully or partially by the government related to the coronavirus pandemic.
Right.
If you weren't shut down by the government, you can still qualify if for a quarter in 2020 your collections were 50% or less of your collections amount for the same quarter 2019. For 2021, you can still qualify if your business was shut down by the government, but fortunately there wasn't nearly as much of that this year. You can also qualify if during a quarter in 2021 your collections were 80% or less of the amount of collections you had for the same quarter in 2019. So if you're still behind somewhat from where you were in 2019, even if it's only up to a 20% drop for a calendar quarter, you can still qualify. But now the credit is 70% of wages instead of 50%. So most people are aware of this and have filed claims on these, but there's still probably some questions out there, and people are still dealing with that.
So anybody whose head just spun when Stephen was speaking there, because every time I hear my accountant gives me numbers, I'm like, "What'd you say?" Let's see that in writing. Write that out for me. You can always reach out to him, and we'll give you his contact info in a moment afterwards. So I've got two more questions for you. Just not even from a business standpoint, but just from a professional or personal standpoint, are there any type of educational or go-tos that you recommend? You have what do you stay on top of things? Just just to be up to snuff, obviously you've got your accounting information and things along that line, but is there anything from a business standpoint, or just personal growth standpoint that you go to the podcast, website, book, something like that you use or recommend?
Yeah, I mean, number one is watching your analytics. Whether you
Okay.
use Dental Intel or you use a professional to help you look at your numbers to see where you're trending, and making sure that the numbers going in are being classified in the right categories so that those can be managed. Uh, and then and then from there, we can look at opportunities to help you save money or grow your practice or whatever that is, whether that's through tax planning or marketing or saving your costs. Having the right numbers and knowing the right numbers to look at can be huge. Now, some other trends and things that are worth mentioning is the R&D tax credit. That's something that there has been a lot more discussion on for dentists,
Okay.
and and you can qualify if you are doing research. Now, it's not formal research, but if you're doing research for your business,
Okay.
meaning maybe you're experimenting with new types of equipment, new types of procedure, something that's experimental in some way that has a technology component to it,
Right.
there's a possibility that there's a credit out there for you. Now, there are those out there that I think will want to push to claim a credit for everything under the sun. And then there's others who will say, no way, dentists can't qualify. It's a service industry. It's a proven field. I don't buy into either of those sides. It's really in between. We want to you want to get credit for what you qualify for, but you want to be talking to the right people and making sure that what you qualify is, or what you claim is qualified.
Got it. Interesting. Good. Okay. So you have the ability to go to Times Square and put up a billboard. It's going to be seen by 5 million people today.
Okay.
What's it say? Doesn't have to be accounting. Doesn't have to be industry. Just a message. What are you saying to 5 million people today?
Oh man. Well, be happy. I like what you said at the first of this show.
Okay.
Is we're in the smile business.
Okay.
If I
Love
could
it.
put smiles on other people's faces,
Be happy. Love it.
that's
Great.
great.
Two of the best words put together ever. All right. And one last question for you. All right. You have the ability to go out for lunch today with one person from history. Could be anybody. Who you hanging out with?
Oh man, one person from history.
Could be somebody now. It could be from history. It could be from the beginning of time, or it could be
Okay, well,
anybody. Who you picking? Who are you gonna hang out with?
I'll say George Washington.
Really? Why's that?
Well, I I hadn't had much time to think about that
No,
one,
but
but
that's well. Okay, good. Keeping your toes,
but
man.
yeah, I enjoy
Okay.
learning about
Just,
our nation's history.
oh,
And
cool. Good. Okay. Interesting. Good answer. All right. So, Steve Nance, so thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. So, I'm going to give you a chance for a little plug here. So, if somebody wants to get some more information, contact you, learn a little bit more about how you can help them, what's the best way for them to reach you and get in touch with you?
yeah, you can contact me. My email is snance@drilldownsolution.com. That's snance@drilldownsolution.com. Phone number 801-225-8474. Check out our website, drilldownsolution.com, and I'd love to talk to you.
Great. Well, Steve, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Everybody out there, take an expert advice. Don't do this yourself. Use a company that knows what they're doing. Things are changing. Your taxes are so important. Your financials are so important. It could dictate, your life. So use the right people in place. If you're not happy with with who you're using, or if you want just a second opinion, or you want looking to start a new practice, reach out to Steve. I highly recommend these guys there. So everybody in podcast land, thanks so much for listening. Everybody be happy, be smiling, and once again, go Jets. All right. Thanks, everybody. Be happy. Bye-bye.
OrthoMarketing.com. 360-degree digital marketing solutions for your practice.